Cool. All right. So I'm going to go to the next question. What type of questions did you ask or do you ask on dates? Usually, what would be like some of the main questions that you would ask? Josh.
I think one of the questions that I kind of concentrated a lot was background.
Yeah.
So like family, do your dad around, mom, relationship, those kind of things. The reason why I was kind of concentrating a lot on that, just so I can see where she came from. I have a different background. These are two backgrounds in marriage that are going to come together, looking at pit holes, clashes. Even though you can't stop all things from like happening, it's still seeing where she came from. And yeah, just her background. Like, was dad around?
Yeah.
Was he protective? Did he provide? Did he not provide? How was it living with like your mom? Those kind of questions were really important. And just yeah, she came from a family background and her personality and how her background has affected her in any sort of way. So I can be wary of that as well, and she can be wary of that as well. So around background, and obviously the number one question I was asking was her relationship as a believer, Christian
Yeah.
relationship with God was obviously number one for me. But accompanying that was a massive one about background and just where she was from.
Got you. Okay. So bit of background check. That's good. Yes, Charles?
For me, one of the questions that I like to ask really early is, how did your last relationship end? What happened? Um, and
Oh,
um, and of- and another former question is basically I'd be mindful of how she speaks about her exes. And so
yep.
if every time she talks about an ex, yeah, this person's that yeah, he was bad, he was bad, he was bad, he was bad. And
Yeah.
if I don't hear any accountability, if I don't hear any, oh yeah, yeah, he was bad, but I messed up here as well. If I don't hear any of that, it's a red flag in my head,
Wow.
because the common denominator between all these relationships not working is her. Do you see what I'm saying? So I'd be very conscious of how they speak about the ex. So that's one of the questions I will ask. How did things end with the ex?
Mm-hmm.
So that's it.
Cool. Cool. Well, thank you for being honest on that. And Ade.
Yeah, wow. Charles' points were
Yeah.
very good. Yeah, I suppose, yeah, relationships. I think past relationships, they do matter because it's kind of like investing. You're going to look at a stock that's been doing well. If it's been doing poorly, you're not going to want to invest in it. So historic data matters. So you want to know, how is she, what made the relationship fail, just to kind of get an inkling. And also, you get to see if she takes responsibility or not. So I feel like that, for me anyway, that was vital. In terms of what's important to me,
Yeah.
respect and, a healthy sign of submission, I would
Yeah.
want to know a relationship with her father, whether it was good or
Mm-hmm.
bad, why it was bad, and, what the relationship is like. Because for me, I feel as though if a person cannot respect a good father, then I highly doubt it they're going to respect me. So I feel like that would be the type of questions I'll be asking.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Well, Ade, you and your the way you bring your examples, yeah. Hey, I like it. I like it. And Grady, basically the question was, when going on dates or when dating, like what are the main questions you like to usually ask?
To be honest, I don't have a set of questions.
Okay.
I like things to be as natural or as organic as possible. So as the conversation's flowing, I just kind of naturally ask questions to learn more. What
Yeah.
I tend to do is listen attentively, because obviously there's certain things you want to hear. So obviously as they're answering, you're picking up on little facts about them, and then you
Yeah.
kind of naturally probe. And that way it doesn't feel like you're trying to get to a certain direction or like a job interview or anything. It just feels as if you're just having
Mm,
a natural conversation. But one of the key factors, outside of what the gentlemen have said already, one of the key factors that I'd want to kind of figure out is what their future looks like. I think
mm,
that's one thing I'd want to know in terms of, do they see children in their future? Do they
mm,
want to relocate in their future? Do they even want to get married? Obviously, you
yeah.
don't want to be asking these type of questions right at the beginning, because that could feel somewhat overwhelming. But
Yeah.
as you naturally talk to someone, you learn these things. So if they tell me they've got 3 siblings, and natural follow up be, oh, that's a big family. Is that something you want yourself? just those little snippets there that kind of allow you to kind of learn more about them. So I don't have set questions, but there are certain things I'd like to find out as I'm getting to know them, knowing that as the days or the weeks or the months go on, I'm probably going to learn more, because I personally only go on a first date once we've already built some level of rapport, because at least then I know we can actually have a conversation and be comfortable face to face. I wouldn't go into a first date knowing nothing, because essentially I feel like I'm setting myself up for what potentially could be a very awkward date or a very awkward time. So there's usually some kind of groundwork already done before we get to that stage.
You know, one thing you mentioned about the future, trying to gauge like what is their future looking like. I like the way you mentioned that, because in the last panel with the women, one of the things that came up was about, even just as we're all Christians here, right? Within that community, one may say, okay, he wants to be a pastor or wants to do full-time ministry. And even that was a whole topic of discussion in terms of seeing if they would both be aligned with that. So it's a good thing that you mentioned about just looking at how is their future looking like, what is their vision when it comes to that. Cool. Okay. I know Ade, he's got to go soon. Okay. So I've got one. This might be a big one, but if you guys can simplify it as much as you can, that would be great. How important is having the same beliefs as you? Look at Ade's face. I'm sorry I dropped that bombshell when you have to go soon. Do you want to go first? Because I saw you just shaking your head.
It's vital.
Yeah.
Very important. You know, the good book says, you know, if two don't walk together, how will they agree? I think it's just fundamental in human, you know, life and work and everything that we do, you know, having the same ideas. I mean, I come from a country where 80% are Muslim, 20% are Christian. And it's weird where you can have Christians and Muslims getting married and there's not a problem. That's fantastic. But in the West, it doesn't work. It doesn't work in terms of, for many reasons. We're a bit deeper in our religion. I think child rearing, that's important. You need to know, are we smacking? Are we not smacking? Schooling, you know, what are we doing? Are we traveling? Do you like traveling? Circumcision, that's an interesting one. Yes or no? Piercings for children. You know, there's just so many ideas. Retirement, what do you want to do? What age do you want to retire? I feel like you have to agree, you know, and I think that's probably one of the most important questions I want to know at the very get-go. I want to know whether this is even worth my energy, you know, chatting and calling and staying up for 5 hours during the night. I need to know if it's worth me going to work tired. You know, do we have the same vision? Are we aligned? It's important. Without that, it's not going to work.
Cool. No, thank you, Charles.
So I'm just trying to get some clarity on the question. So when you say beliefs, are you more so talking about biblical?
Yes, I am. But I like the fact that Ade did also explore the other things as well, because they're just as important too.
Yeah, well, I think that having shared beliefs, you'd think that this should go without saying, since we're both supposed to be Christians, right?
Oh yeah.
However, you know, I've met some Christians who I've had radically different views from. Yeah, so I think it is important. You know, a friend of mine, he met a girl who he was interested in, nice girl, but she was like into prosperity doctrine.
Oh
you know, yeah, I'm going to be rich. Let me tell you, yeah, for richer, that kind of woman, you know. And I remember like that was an issue with him, like because you know I remember talking to someone and she said something, and I remember it's like, yeah, you know, maybe if we can afford it. And she's like, no, but instead of you just saying that we're gonna afford it, you're speaking. I remember just thinking to myself, I don't really believe this stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like those type of doctrinal issues are important. But you know, so yeah, I think it is.
Yeah.
Oh, here's one. I thought this might be triggering. You know, do I believe in going to church attendance? Do I want to go to church? Like, you know, somebody might not want to go to a church, but you want to go to church every Sunday, but you meet someone who's like, you know, I go to house fellowships. That's a problem. Yeah. All right. That was my point anyway. But yeah, it's good to be aligned anyway with your beliefs.
Cool. Thank you. And Grady. Oh, Ade, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ade. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Bye. And Grady?
I think it's a complex question. If we really dive into it, I think it can also be subjective because it definitely depends on your lifestyle. So if we're talking about faith, Christianity, if you're not even a disciple of Christ and you're not following the word, then you won't really care too tough if you're with a Christian or not. But if you are a Bible believing Christian, then it's absolutely crucial that you get with someone with the same belief, because it's not just a belief, it's a lifestyle. As Charles given different examples, if you want to pray, if you want to fast, if you want to go church, if you want to serve, if you want to do this, it's part of your life, and you're going to need a partner who is going to do that with you, or at the very least understand that. So if you want to spend some time praying and not watching Netflix, you don't want to end up in an argument because of priorities. And I think from what Ade said and from what Charles said as well, I think Charles kind of hinted towards it. This is where submission plays a big part, because I know that's what we were talking about before, where, I don't think you're ever going to find out every single thing about someone. And as years pass, doctrine changes or interpretation changes or belief changes or things just happen. And when you face these differences, will there be compromise, or will there be submission from one partner where they say, do you know what? Because of our union, because of our roles, because of our partnership, I'm going to trust you and go along with what you're saying. I think having the same belief, having the same faith is absolutely crucial for the lifestyle that you want to build. But you also need to be open to communicating with one another, understanding one another, and sometimes it's a matter of teaching and discipleship rather than just kind of disqualifying someone and kind them off because they've learned about prosperity gospel, for example. That's all they've been taught. So rather than disqualifying them, educate them, get them into the word, teach them. But it just depends on how patient you are, how much you love them, and how invested you are in the relationship as well.
Wow, you've covered so many things. Because sometimes I think even within the Christian community, it's even difficult because, as Charles and you've mentioned as well, where do you get that balance? Where do you... Because Christian community is so wide. There's some who do believe in prosperity gospel. Even I'm one, who was really into the prosperity gospel and stuff. So obviously coming out of that mindset, even that's even been a transition in itself. So I guess, Grady, what you mentioned is, if that person is willing to teach, if that person is willing to lead, if that person is willing to be patient and maybe understand the background that they're coming from. So thank you. Josh?
Yeah, I think it's essential to have the same beliefs because, two people who are courting then get married and they become one. So if you become one, you need to have the same beliefs. But then what Grady was saying was really important because I think the belief, as in the foundational beliefs, to be put in place, as in we both believe in Jesus, we both believe in getting discipled, we both believe in praying and reading the word. However, I think that's where the whole submission and leadership when you get married comes into it, because that's where doctrines could change over the years. So you could be believing one part and then you change it, and the husband brings that new, should I say, doctrine or new thing that he's learned, that God has taught him, to the family. And then he says, wife, I believe we need to start doing this now. Then we need to walk. And she could be like, no, I don't want to do that. And that's, so you've had a belief before marriage, got into marriage, had a belief, but then over time it changes. So I think it's a continuous thing. It's not just a foundational thing where you have the same beliefs. It's a constant thing where your beliefs are going to keep on growing. And I think that's where it's important, where the leadership of the house comes into play and the submission comes into play, because over the years, our doctrine has changed because we've developed, or we've heard a new teaching and it's changed our perception of this, or my perception, and we've had a discussion. And then all the time, our beliefs haven't come into align with each other, and we have to continually become one all the time. We're becoming one in our beliefs. So I think, yes, we have to foundational. The belief is we both believe in Jesus. We both believe he died on the cross and resurrected. Yes, we believe that, but then our beliefs are going to keep on growing, and we have to keep on touching base to be like, let's continue being one in every situation, because over time there is marriages that have broken up because they were one, and then the belief has come in and it's changed, then they're now two, and they're separated because that belief has got in the way, and then they're separating because they don't believe the same thing.
Huh.
So yeah.
The way you just dropped.
I'm of the opinion that sometimes we complicate things. This is me speaking, as Paul said, this is me, this isn't coming from the Lord. Because I think a lot of times we use that scripture of, don't be unequally yoked. But when you actually look at the scripture and when you study it, and when you even look at a comparison, if we were to contextualize it, the comparisons are very much a believer with an unbeliever. And it's about forming close relationships. But I think what a lot of us have done is we've interpreted close relationships as marriage, and we haven't stopped it as a believer marrying an unbeliever. We have created it as someone who's been saved for one day marrying someone who's been saved for 10 years, or someone who's been baptized and Holy Spirit filled with someone who's been baptized and not Holy Spirit filled, someone who's been to Bible school and someone who's not been to Bible school. So we use that comparison of saved and unsaved with actually levels of maturity. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, because obviously if you're in your walk, if you're in leadership, for example, if you're leading others, if you're a minister, then it's only natural that you might want to marry someone who's also a minister, or who's also in a certain level of maturity. But I don't think it's quite right or quite accurate to use the concept or the scripture of unequally yoked, because I feel like we take it out of context to justify our decisions of not choosing certain partners. And I think that just makes it very, 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 very complicated. And I'm not advocating for sisters to marry guys who aren't as spiritually mature as them, because I definitely believe that men should lead. But I would also add that women are great motivators for men. So you do have cases where a guy will meet a sister, realize she's mature in the faith, and the way this guy will grow exponentially, he will mature in the faith because he's trying to get serious. And I'm not putting that out there to advise sisters, go and find a new believer. I'm not saying that at all. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm also saying we shouldn't shut ourselves off. We're meant to be brothers and sisters in the faith. We're meant to be friends. That's what we advocate for. So try to build that friendship, try to build that foundation, and then see where romance can develop, if it can develop, because you just never know. But I definitely think we do make it very, very difficult for ourselves. And it's probably just because we're trying to guard ourselves and avoid disappointment and shame and embarrassment and a number of other things, because ultimately we all want the same thing, which is a happy, lifelong marriage.
And Grady made a fantastic point regarding the whole unequally yoked, because I think sometimes the perception is, I've got brought up in church, and the perception was, because I got brought up in church, I should marry a Christian, mature girl who's been baptized, water baptized, speaking in tongues, all sorts. And my wife wasn't that at all. So she was just, been saved, a babe in the faith. She came to it. I've been in church for years, whatever, blah, blah. And I was attracted to her. This is who I want to be my wife. And I didn't look at her as in, oh, we're unequally yoked. Like, you don't know what I know. And I didn't look at it like that. For me, my foundation was like, do you believe in Jesus? Like, that's it. And it was like, yes. And then from there, we both have grown together. So I think sometimes some people can be like, because you're in church, or because you're a leader, or because you're this or whatever, you automatically have to marry this person. And it's not that at all. It's just, as I said, the foundational beliefs, yes. But as I said, over time, it can change. It can change. So, I think that's an important point. Because sometimes, church people could be like, you need to marry someone like this or whatever. And that's not the case.
No, well, thank you. You guys have dropped a lot of gems. Even your experience, Josh, because obviously some people might just walk away and that might just be like, oh, no, she's a new Christian. I can't be asked with that. I want someone who's like this. But do you think, because you're a man, do you think you're at an advantage in that sense? I think it's easier when it's the other way around. Like when the man is more spiritually more mature than the woman, it's easier to lead and support and whatever. But when it's the other way around, it's not as easy in church or leadership, or this is when there's a bit of pressure on the woman, like, oh, are you sure you want to go with this guy? He's just calm, he's only Christian for 2 days, 3 days, saved for those amount. Like I just don't see it's not equally like
the point I was making.
It
depends on two things. One, it depends on the person, and the lifestyle they want to have.
Yeah.
If they even care about their spiritual growth and their spiritual walk. And two, it depends on longevity as well.
Yeah.
I think a sister can be mature, start talking to a brother who's not as mature, because he's ticking other boxes. It's great because he shows potential. It's great for the short term.
Yeah.
But there comes a point, I think, where a sister will get tired of leading. I think a lot of women talk about leadership, and they talk about the idea of leadership. But I do think there's a certain level of responsibility and pressure that comes with leadership that not all women want. And I think it depends on the type of leadership. So going off with what Josh was saying in regards to the pressure of paying bills, for example, in his example, there's just certain things that men and women don't mind worrying about and don't want to worry about. For example, I will worry about the bills, I'll worry about the insurance, I'll worry about work, I'll worry about finances. The one thing I don't want to worry about is what we're eating tonight. Please, I don't want to have to think about what I'm going to be cooking when I get home. That's one thing. And it's not a big thing, but that's just one thing that I don't want to create a capacity for, especially for the long term. So I think there's just certain things that wouldn't work. And I think likening to what you said, I think even in church culture, you want the man to lead, especially if you're a woman who marries a man who's not as mature. You see other men leading, praying, preaching, speaking, man of God. You look at your guy and you're like, the names of all the 12 apostles. Like it's hard. So I think that's what I mean by the long term. It'll be difficult. In the short term, it could work, but in the long term, it'll be. And I think it's the same for a guy as well. You can marry someone who's a babe in the faith, and it's all good because you like her. But after a while, when you really want your wife to pray for you, and your wife can't pray for you, do you know what I mean? When you're having a really difficult time and you just need prayer and you need covering, and she can't do that, that's challenging because every now and again we need cover, we need support, we need help. So, yeah.
Cool. No, thank you.
Do you know what? I will back up what you're saying as well, like Grady, and what you're saying, Selena, as well. I do believe, and it's from experience as well, that it is easier for the man when he's with someone who's, just come to the faith or whatever than the woman. And the reason why I say that is because the men are supposed to spiritually lead. So there's the one that's supposed to be spiritually leading the home. So I think from experience, it's like you can start off in a relationship and yes, you try and build that man. He comes to church more and he's trying to get more into the word. But I think when you then get into marriage, you can see the difference. Where when the woman's like, okay, so what's happening? What's God saying for the home? And if you don't have a clue, like, I don't know what God is saying. It puts a lot of pressure on the woman to be like, okay, but then am I out of order? Because then she's now questioning, okay, but I'm not supposed to be leading, but then am I out of order to then be leading? And then it's a lot of pressure on her head because she's like, okay, but you're the one that's supposed to be leading the home. And so it is much easier for the man because naturally he's leading. With the woman, because she's not naturally leading and she has to be more submissive. It's like I can be submissive for a period of time, but in her mind, please long term let me be submissive because I'm not trying to be a leader like that. Do you get what I'm saying? So I think it is easier for the man.
And I think that's what's so amazing about women, what's so challenging as well, especially in the church, because where there's a lack or a need, women will step up. And that's what's so amazing about women. When men aren't stepping up, women will step up and they'll take charge and they'll just do what they need to do. And this is in different capacities as well. And sometimes what could happen is because men see that, you get two responses. Either one, they think, oh, I don't have to do it then, so I'm just gonna chill and I'll leave you to do it. Or two, they feel out of place because they don't know how to function or what to do. So we kind of add on to the issue of men not taking leadership when we fill those vacancies with women. So it's a very weird, awkward cycle. But that's why it's so refreshing when you see a man step up and take lead. Not because they're trying to abuse it, not because of the glory or the majesty that comes with it, but it's kind of like you're stepping into the role that you're meant to be stepping into. And you're meant to be doing the job that you're meant to be doing into. So we're necessarily applauding you for doing it, but we're applauding the fact that there's such a lack of it that we appreciate seeing it. And it goes on the other end as well when you see a woman being supportive or being helpful or being encouraging or taking up her position in certain areas as well.
Wow. Concluding with this question, there's just this natural tendency of men leading. Because even with the whole, in terms of spiritual, I don't really like to use this word, but spiritual levels and stuff like that, there's just this natural tendency of him wanting, like him being the lead in that, and the woman wanting to like learn. Because obviously we do like to learn. We do like to learn from our men. We do want to be led at the end of the day. I can see why it does go in more in that direction. Would you be comfortable if your partner had male friends? I asked the women this in the last panel. They definitely gave their answers. I'll definitely hear what you guys have got to say on this one.
So I'm laughing because Josh and I have history. So I don't know if Josh wants to share or if he wants me to share. So that's why I was laughing.
Yes, please share. Welcome back.
So do I mind if my partner has male friends?
Yes.
No, I don't mind. I don't mind at all. I think the only time I would mind is if one, she didn't have any close female friends. That's when I'll be concerned. I think the good thing about her having male friends is that it provides with a level of insight and understanding of men, which should make it easier for her to understand me.
Yeah.
But if she has no women around her, I'd be very concerned about that. And two, I'd be mindful of what boundaries she may have with those men. Because essentially my expectation would be by the time she becomes my wife, I'm her only close male friend.
Wow.
Man's perspective, she can come to me. If she needs a man's perspective to understand me, she can go to my boys, because who better to know me than my guys? She doesn't need to go to her guys because they don't necessarily know me. I'm honestly, being a man myself, I know what men can be like.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't necessarily be me not trusting her, but more so me understanding the mind of a man, therefore trying to safeguard her. So in regards to Josh's point, the reason why I was laughing is because for those who are watching, Josh's wife, Halorn, and I are very close friends. We met at uni, had a very, very close relationship, friendship, best friends, whatever you want to call it. When she started dating Josh, just because of my principles, one, it was very important for me to kind of take a step back.
Yeah.
For that relationship to kind of grow. Also, two, it was very important for me to meet Josh and develop a friendship with him, knowing that they are now together. And the first time Josh and I met, we connected straight away, and we were boys from there. And it's a principle that I keep to this day. Yes, I've known Halorn longer, but Josh is my brother. I'm coming to see them both, not just Halorn. If I'm calling anyone, I'm also gonna call Josh and ask how Halorn's doing, rather than call Halorn. So I'm always gonna go through the husband out of respect for his leadership, his union, and just who he is. And if there was ever a situation where the two of them had a disagreement, for example, and Halorn came to me and said, "Oh, Grady, what's your opinion?" Without thinking twice, my first question would be, "What did Josh say?" If you told me what Josh said, my response is not going to go against him.
Wow.
I'm not going to be the person who calls you to go against the guidance and the leadership of your husband. There's not going to be any division in your household. So even if I don't completely agree with Josh, I'm not going to say anything that's going to go against Josh's advice or counsel. If anything, I'll just tell H, just have another conversation with him, and then maybe just call Josh behind the scenes and be like, "Hi, bro, that's why I let you know this is what I heard and this is what I'm thinking." But obviously, it's up to you. But yeah, just being respectful of the relationship, and just having boundaries, really.
Cool. No. Thank you for sharing that, Charles. I see you got your hand up. I'm gonna get to you, Josh, as well. I don't know if you heard the question, Charles, but it was about friendship and being friends with the opposite sex, and if you would feel comfortable if your partner had male friends. How comfortable would you be with that?
Okay, cool. So firstly, apologies for being away for a couple of minutes. I had something to do.
Whenever I've been asked this question, I actually always use Grady as a reference point. So when I met Halorn, and also back to the question, it says if she has male friends, isn't it?
Yeah.
So there's no S with Halorn. She doesn't have male friends. Listen, it's just Grady. I met Halorn, and she told me that she had friends in Grady and stuff. I think the beautiful thing about my relationship with Halun and in Grady was that me and Grady became brothers. So actually, over time, I sometimes, and even Halun reminds me, she's like, remember Grady was my friend, like my friend, like over time, like Grady just became a brother. So it didn't feel like it was Halun's friend or whatever, blah, blah. And even when we talk now, it's like Halun's brother is my brother, and it's more family rather than her friend or my friend or something like that. It's just literally family. So when I get asked a question, I'm like to always make sure that you make relationships. You don't judge straight away and be like, oh, why she got male friends? You make a relationship with the friend and allow that friend to become your brother. Like Grady was one of my groomsmen, so like we became actual brothers. So I think it's not straight just jump into, you know, the guard and insecurities and things like that. I do think it's about building relationships with the person because they're friends and things like that. So yeah, we become brothers. So yeah, that's my reference point in regards to this question, literally.
No, thank you. And it's great that there's an actual live example. Obviously, you're married to Halun. Grady, you know Halun from way back. Obviously, I know that you know Halun because we all go way back. It's just amazing just to see how that's kind of blossomed between you two as well, and how healthy that has become, even just in terms of you Grady respecting their union and literally asking Halun, oh, have you checked with Josh first? Like, these are also key things. And I just think that that says a lot as well about you guys' friendship and brotherhood in that. So no, thanks for sharing that, because of course a live example, nothing gets better than that. Charles, sorry. So if we get to you and then we can address the making women feel safe as well question.
Yes. Okay, cool. So would I be comfortable with my wife having a close, because we're talking about my wife now, married now, right?
Or it could be within dating as well.
Okay, dating, marriage. I feel like Josh and Grady, I feel like your relationship is an exception and not necessarily the rule. I think you guys have just been fortunate enough. Josh, I think you've been fortunate enough that your wife's friend is a man of integrity and a man of honor. Do you know what I mean? And a man who respects boundaries. That's not the case often. That's not the case most of the time, because oftentimes with male-female relationships or friendships, oftentimes there is at least one party who would like the relationship to be more what it is than what it is, and is only content with the friendship because that's all they can get at that juncture. So, you know, and then, so it all depends on the friend, because if I've met a woman and she's got a really close friend, male friend, and it's like, how come you guys didn't get together? Like, oh, he's perfect, he's this, he's that, why didn't you get together? Like, do you know what I mean? And then oftentimes if boundaries are not maintained, because she has more mileage with her friend than you, oftentimes you know, that guy could be the person that she goes to when she's, you know, going through stuff. It's like that Usher song, you make me want to lead a one away. Do you see what I'm saying? He said, before anything began between us, you were like my best friend.
Come on, Charles. Sing it.
You know what I'm saying?
He's promoting himself. I see what you're doing. Yeah. Let him know.
Yeah, and that's what it is. It's like, you know, and oftentimes, what if she's in a relationship with you and then it's not going well? She's running back to this person who she has more mileage with, the person who knows her well, he knows how to treat her. And she's like, oh, why did I not get with this guy? You know, and so it all depends. Like, it all really depends, I think. And if I can caveat to the next question, what is it, Selena?
Yeah, sure. So it is, how can a woman make you feel safe?
Yes, and I think that's the key thing. How can a woman make you feel safe? And I think it can apply to a man as well. Having appropriate boundaries and not being able to manage people's access to your life. That's really important, because, you know, if those boundaries are not set, it can almost signify, you know, what she prizes more. And I feel like if for example, you're in a relationship and your partner is not comfortable with the friendship that you have, I think if this person is not willing to prioritize the relationship over the friendship, that could be indicative of, you know, where her heart's at. But like I said, I think Josh and Grady, I feel like you're fortunate, you know, that you're a respectful person, Grady. Again, it's not the case with everyone. So I just respecting, you know, maintaining good boundaries, you know, understanding how to rebut somebody's advancements, because also when you're in a relationship, that doesn't make you blind to other people, and it equally doesn't make other people blind to you. Like, you know, and I think there's a degree to which, like, you know, you have to recognize I'm in a relationship, and so certain conversations might need to be limited, you know, certain interactions might need to be limited in order to show a united front. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying if you're a friendly person, you know, stop being friendly, but understand that, you know, there are lines that need to be maintained in order just to keep both parties content and secure.
Thank you,
Feel free
Charles.
to push back.
No, you brought a different perspective, because in reality, Brady and Joshua's situation is a really, really good situation. It is an exception, but if we do look at it in reality, that's not, a lot of times that's not the case. It does cause a lot of friction. It does cause a lot of problems. You know, at the end of the day, coming from like experience, I've had to just end up backing down because I'm the principled person in that situation. So I'm just like, I'm going to back off now. Not that I'm affecting the relationship or anything, but because of me respecting their relationship, it's just best that I push back so that they can just focus and I'm not an interruption when it comes to them dating and marriage. There's times that, you know, you do lose friendship. Some of my male friends, you know, as much as I still love them till this day, you know, the relationship is not the same anymore. And that's only because I've just taken that conscious decision to back away.
Yeah. And I think, just to jump back on that again, I think that's why it comes down to like the building the relationship, because, and that's why I took the S off the friends, where like she has, like, it's Grady literally she's had other male friends that I've said, nah, I've met them and I've been like, nah, this one's got an agenda, or I don't really like how they act, or whatever, blah. But with Grady it was different, where I was like, no, this is an integral guy, integral brother, like he's generally a brother and a family. Where with other guys it could be different. Do you get what I'm saying? And then it was different, where I was like, yeah, I feel uncomfortable you talking to this person. So I do think it is the whole relationship thing. I think guys, same way where women will be like, we know women, so don't talk to that woman. Same way guys will be like, we know guys, I don't think you should be talking to that guy. So we will meet the guy and be like, yeah, this guy, yep, I respect him. I can definitely build a relationship with him. Yeah, he's family, he can stay around. There's other guys that we could meet where we can be like, yeah, I see, even though the wife or the woman's like, no, he's a friend, we can see like and be like, no, he's not a friend. So yeah, that's definitely that discerning that through each person you meet.
Wow. And I'm glad that you touched on that, because it's interesting how you were able to identify. Some of them was like to hello, nope, but really, yes, this one, good keeper. Okay, cool. Cool. No, thank you. You know, to the other question about, and I know Charles has touched on it about boundaries, but was there anything else that you guys wanted to add in terms of how can a woman make you feel safe?
I think, it's a hard question.
Yeah.
I know how I want to answer it, but I don't know if I'd be answering the question, so I'll just say it. I think for me, it's twofold. One, prioritizing me, where I feel I hold some kind of priority in her life. But two, if she makes me comfortable enough to open up and to be vulnerable, then that means that she makes me feel safe. But I can't necessarily say what she'd need to do, but that would be outcome of her making me feel safe. Yeah. So to answer that, if women wonder, you know, why do you guys not opening up? Why they're not sharing? Why they're not being vulnerable? It may be because you haven't made them feel safe enough or trusted enough for them to feel safe enough to open up. And that could be through you asking them questions and probing. It could be you physically, practically being there. It could be you being patient.
Cool. Wow. Thank you, Grady, because that does pop up a bit. So I'm glad that you answered that question, because sometimes that can be quite a pain point in relationships, that he's not opening up enough. I can't get into his head. So I guess it's all about creating that safe space. Cool. All right. Josh, I guess even within marriage, how does the law make you feel safe within your marriage?
Do you know what? I think when I first initially heard the question,
Yeah.
I didn't think of how does she make me feel safe. I automatically went to how do I make her feel safe?
Yeah.
Because I think like naturally in my mind, I'm like, how am I making her feel safe, or how am I making the kids or the girls feel safe? Like safety in my mind is gone to protection. So I went straight to protection. So flipping the question, it was hard for me to answer because I was like, safety for me is protection. So I go straight to how am I making them feel safe?
Yeah.
So I think, how does she make me feel safe? I think in communication, I think how she carries herself around the house. And as Grady was saying, in regards to the vulnerability, I think allowed me to just be free in conversations and just being open in conversations. I think that's how she makes me feel safe. Like, it is a vulnerability. It's that trust. Like, you feel safe if you trust someone. So I think once like that safety net is there for us to have a open conversations, and I trust that conversation, I think that's how I feel safe to be able to tell her something that may be on my mind. I'm like, oh, is she gonna understand this? I think when she's understanding, that's safety to me. So we can have an open conversation and we can move forward. So yeah, that's safety. Communication is safety for me.
And you know what? Thanks for sharing that, because you know the way you said you thought of it, the flip, like the other way around, because it is usually steered in that way, like, oh, how can a man make me feel safe, blah, 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 blah. But in the flip side, you don't really hear that stance. You don't really hear like that perspective. And this is one of the reasons why I asked that question, because we don't hear that enough. So no, thank you for.
And I'd probably add on and say that's probably what makes your girl into your wife.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that's a common thing for guys.
Yeah.
I think the way we'd probably recognize it is your ride and die. Because essentially that's your ride and die is someone who's consistent and there for you. And someone who makes you feel safe is someone who you know is consistently there for you.
Yeah.
And obviously the one that you find who makes you feel that vulnerable, that comfortable, is the one that you don't want to lose. Or when you do lose, you always regret. And that's what happens with guys as well, because they're immature, silly, can't make a decision. And that's always the one that got away or whatnot. So, yeah.
Wow. Cool. Well, guys, okay. I think I'm gonna end it with, if there's one thing, like one takeaway you wanna give, one piece of advice like to give, Charles.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about this because I was thinking, if we were to end, there's something I wanted to say. So thank you.
Oh yeah, go on.
I think there's a couple, but the one I can share right now is, I think women need to start listening to men in terms of what men want, because oftentimes I feel like women make the mistake of thinking that the things that they value in a man are the same things that men value in women. Because it's fascinating when you were saying, you were asking the girls, you know, the characteristics or the things that they were looking for. One of the things that was mentioned was like finances or earning a lot of money, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. I did a poll prior to starting this conversation, asking guys the 3 things that they would look for in a woman. And none of the guys mentioned, oh yeah, financially stable or secure. And no one mentioned that, you know. And I think it's a stark difference between the way that the men think and the way that women think. You know, so just understanding that we want different things, and I think the sooner women learn that, and obviously vice versa, when men learn what women want, I think that you know, we'll be putting ourselves in a better stead in terms of actually, you know, getting into good relationships. So that's it.
Wow, thank you. Even just listening to this panel, even I'm learning, I'm like, wow, we really do think differently. I guess that's the reason why I'm doing this panel. Thank you. Josh, what would you say, like, what's the one thing would you like to give?
Maybe just like a general advice. I think to not get distracted with relationships, what you see on social media or just the world in general. Because I think regards to society has painted a picture on marriage, society is painted a picture on single men, single women. And I think it's just not to get carried away with what you've seen or what you see on TV or what you see on Instagram or what people paint pictures, and just getting down to foundational. Some of the stuff that we've spoken about today, really asking those questions like, what am I serious about? Am I really serious about, is money the main thing for me, or is look like what's my foundation? What am I looking for? And understanding that marriage is a long-term thing. Like, it's a long-term thing. It's a long-term sacrifice that two people have to make. So sometimes I think these kind of talks are quite sobering, because you understand what's really important. So it's just really examining what's really important, especially when it comes to long-term sacrifice with someone. What's really important to that relationship. So that will be my verse.
Wow, thank you. And Grady.
My advice would be, when communicating with a guy, have a genuine interest in him and what he's interested in. So don't ask questions or talk about things that you care about or you want the answer to. Get to know him and probe about him. I think women think that men don't talk. To be honest, guys, we do talk, and we talk a lot amongst men, but that's usually because the things that we're talking about are the things that are of interest to us. Whereas a lot of time you could be talking to a woman and you feel as though you have to center the majority of the conversation on them. So if you're struggling to communicate with a guy, try focusing the topic of conversation on what he wants to talk about and his interests, and probe further about him, just so you can learn more about him rather than just kind of getting answers that you want for yourself. So yeah, just put all the priority and the focus on him. And yeah, when you start talking about something someone's interested in, they'll talk for England. So find that one topic and you won't stop him from talking, whether it's football, whether it's music. Just find that one thing and he will talk. And then when he talks, he'll get comfortable. And when he gets comfortable, his walls will come down. And when these walls come down, that's really when you can start asking those questions that you've been dying to ask and find out. So that's a little cheat sheet for you sisters there.
Thank you. Well, guys, this has been really insightful. I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time out of your evening to be part of this panel. I really, really do appreciate it. Thank you to Ade as well. He's not here with us now, but thank you to him as well. I've learned a lot just doing this panel, and I really hope that those watching have also learned something as well. And even if they don't fully agree with everything, they're still able to take something away. But yeah, on that note, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this panel. Make sure you like, make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe. Until next time.